this is common in a lot of Christian organizations, but you know, the woman is below the man and the man is below God. So women are like a subcategory, and women are supposed to be submissive and defer to men. Women are not supposed to be leaders. They're not supposed to be outspoken. Uh, and I definitely internalized a lot of that. And I also, because I didn't know I was autistic until, well, it's been almost a decade now, I guess. But growing up, I didn't know I was autistic. So I always thought I was shy because I would have trouble, communicating and relating to people. But I'm
Okay.
actually a very extroverted person. It took me a long time to like figure out how to interact with people socially. And so because I thought I was shy, I thought I was quiet. I like to read. I spent a lot of time by myself. In Alaska, there's not very many people to begin with. So I, grew up alone a lot of the time, running around in the woods with my horse and my wolf and whatever. So I thought when I started, I got into like romantic relationships, I carried that with me. And I thought that I needed to allow the man to guide me and to make decisions and choose things for me. And as it turns out, that's not true.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Truth That Heals podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Anthony Hernandez, and today we have a special guest. She is a survivor, but also she is a musician. And please welcome to the podcast our guest today, Heather. Heather, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. It's a beautiful day. Finally, we had some crazy weather. Storms were nuts.
Oh, where are
It's
you
nice and
at?
sunny now. Just outside Chicago.
Okay, so I think you're my first guest from Chicago. I might be
Oh,
wrong,
nice.
but for now, you're the first guest.
Cool.
Welcome to the podcast. I don't know too much about you, but from what we've been chatting, there is a story of being involved in a religious cult, also toxic relationships, but also there's that freedom that you found through uh, positive friendships or relationships and the power of music. Do I have that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. And Star Trek, to be
And
honest.
Star
Star
Trek.
Trek is it was the catalyst that got me out of the last most abusive relationship I was in.
Where does your story begin?
Alaska. I grew up in Alaska. My mom moved us there when I was just really, really young. I wasn't born in Alaska, but we lived there till I was 16 or 17, I think. Um, and that's where the cult was also. Um,
Was this a New Age cult, a Christian cult? What kind of cult was this?
have you ever heard of Pentecostals
Yeah.
or people that talk in tongues? In the lower 48s, they do like snake handling. So it was that. It was a Christian organization. And I actually harbored a lot of resentment towards my mom and my stepdad for putting me in that environment for a long time. But recently I just sort of discovered or came to this realization that it could have been much worse. Um, like I was allowed to watch TV. We weren't supposed to watch TV. My parents did things that the cult definitely would not have agreed with or been okay with, and they probably would have been kicked out of the church if they knew. But my mom actually, in my adulthood now, we've had some really good conversations about spirituality, and I'm still an atheist for the most part, maybe leaning towards agnostic. But she and I actually believe some really similar things. And I think the biggest reason that she ended up in that environment was because she already knew people. She had kind of been exposed to it when she was younger, and it gave her a sense of like stability and structure. But it wasn't nearly as bad as some other people have experienced with cults.
Hmm. So what I haven't had a Pentecostal approach because I mean I myself am a cult survivor.
Oh, that's
So
right.
yeah, so but every story, they might have some similarities, but each individual has their own experience, own backstory, and part of this something that you mentioned right now was something about snakes. Now I didn't really catch that. Can you elaborate a bit?
Yeah. So snake handling is a common practice in certain religious circles. And there are some, there, I don't think there's any snakes. There might be now if they've been imported. But as far as I know, there aren't any snakes in Alaska, so no one was snake handling there. But the people who do that will actually pick up poisonous snakes and handle them without usually without getting bit, which is kind of extraordinary. But that's a whole other topic. And if they do get bit, many of them don't actually suffer injury, which is interesting. Um, but it's a what's the word? It's a very fanatical kind of environment. People get, worked up in a frenzy and they kind of just lose their minds. And yeah.
Okay, is everyone required to, hey, let's pick up our pet snake today, and or who are the ones who are doing that?
No, it's usually it's a pastor or maybe a missionary that's coming through. Um, it, it, I've never seen it myself. I just use that reference because I know it's common in southern states in some of these similar religious cults.
Yeah, I've never seen that in person, but I do like using the internet. I find myself using YouTube Shorts a lot, and I'm there eating my nachos, and I'm pressing down, 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 watching the next short. And one of them that I recently saw, probably 2 weeks ago, was of a pastor who was in a small community church, and he has a snake, and it bites him and he's telling everybody it's okay, just pray, and he died. He
Mm,
he it
yeah.
it didn't go well. But how often did you see these events?
Oh, the snake handling I didn't because there aren't any snakes in Alaska. And
Okay,
when
but
we left
uh,
Alaska, I kind of left the church around that time too. So
okay, but it did happen within the
yeah.
in the
Oh yeah.
community.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
what are some other things that happened that were um that you would say were hella cultish?
So there was this idea that even if you were baptized, even if you spoke in tongues, which was a requirement for getting into heaven according to this cult, um, if you happen to have a sinful thought seconds before you got into a car accident and died, you could go to hell. And imagine like a child, a very young child, internalizing that and thinking that, walking through your day every single moment, thinking, am I going to go to heaven if I die? Or am I going to go to hell to be tortured for eternity? Like that's some trauma that took me a long time to get over, for sure. And I still catch myself responding to things sometimes um, in, like worst case scenario mindset.
Yeah. So were you required to speak in tongues?
Yes. But the funny thing is, I only did it a couple times and I knew that I was doing it for show. Like, I didn't, there's a lot of people that will say they feel the spirit of the Lord, they feel like it's real to them, and maybe, they feel it's real. I'm not going to say it is or isn't, but I personally knew that I was faking it. And I was just doing it because I wanted other people to believe that I was going to go to heaven. And I thought maybe I needed to do it to go to heaven, but at the same time, I just knew that it was fake. So I started questioning things very, very young, actually, which I think is also honestly probably a result of how my parents raised me because Star Trek was one of the only things I was allowed to watch on TV. And that's extremely progressive. Like in the 80s when I was a child, or just in general to be in a really strict religious environment and to be exposed to the things that Star Trek was showing you is, yeah, that definitely impacted my thinking.
So was Star Trek, was it seen as kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, like as a demonic thing for the people in your church?
I mean, not necessarily Star Trek itself, just the TV. The TV was considered evil. So no one was supposed to watch any TV at all. But I watched Star Trek. I watched Mr. Rogers and Sesame Street, and we watched Westerns and musicals. So, we did watch TV. We had a TV, but the other people in the church didn't know.
Uh,
I'm sure we weren't the only ones. I'm sure there were other people that had TVs too, but nobody talked about it because it was sinful.
so your family wasn't, I mean, they were churchgoers, but would you say that they weren't totally observant?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when this is a silly thing, but like in Alaska, there's a lot of snow. It's the winters are very long, and so um you put on like a snowsuit or snow pants to go, ride your snow machine or go skiing or whatever. And most of the other girls had to wear skirts over theirs. I did not. Because pants were also sinful. But somehow it was okay for us. It's so funny to think about these things now. Like it sounds so ridiculous. Like wearing pants would send you to hell.
That's kind of an extreme.
Very extreme.
Well, not
Yeah.
kind that not kind of that is an extreme way to put it.
Yeah.
Earlier you were talking about people speaking in tongues, and
Hmm.
I was never around that growing up. But I remember I was already a teenager, probably like 18 years old. At this time, I was in Virginia, and I was at a place where someone just got, I don't know what's the proper term, maybe you know better. They get possessed or infused, but this person started speaking in tongues. What word would you use? Like, did they get possessed, or is there a term?
No, it's described as like the Holy Spirit speaking through you. So if you're filled with the Holy Ghost, that's one of the components of having to be saved. The speaking in tongues is supposed to be evidence of that. Which is why if you don't speak in tongues, people don't believe that you're saved in this cult.
Okay, because when I saw this person get, yeah, being yes, I don't even know the right
Yeah, what
words.
would what would well, anyway.
Yeah, when I saw this person uh, speaking in tongues, I was very skeptical, as well as some of the friends who I was with, and the people around were like in awe and like amazed, and I was just thinking, I've never seen this. And I remember afterwards, I was with a friend, and he told me, "Do you believe in that?" And I said, "I don't know. What do you think?" And he says, "Ryan, chicala, chicala, chicala is not a language."
Shamala, shamala, shamala.
And I was,
Shamalanda. I
I,
could do it. Like I could, and this is the thing too. A lot of the speaking in tongues is this made up language. Like they say it's a heavenly language. Some people do actually speak in actual languages, like Spanish or Nigerian or Korean or whatever. But a lot of it is this made up nonsensical language, and people. I mean, it's just like any other human behavior. We learn by imitating, and so children growing up in that environment would hear, the speaking in tongues, and they would repeat it. Yeah, crazy.
well, because I speak Spanish, so it would be interesting if I saw like someone who didn't speak Spanish automatically like dropping bars in Spanish. I'd be like, oh snaps, like that would be impressive. But then when this person was saying, "Come on, you think chicla, chicla, chicla is a language?" I'm like, yeah, yeah, you make a good point. But
Yeah.
let's move on from the whole language part. So you were saying that you were 16, and that's when, or around that time you left Alaska, or what happened
Mhm.
next?
Yep. So we moved down to Minnesota. I forget why. I don't know why actually, but we moved to Minnesota. And then I graduated high school, and then I went to two Bible colleges. Um, the first one I got the nickname Jezebel because I went to the boys' dorms to hang out. or
Yep.
whatever. And the second Bible college I got kicked out of because I was starting to study the Bible in the original Greek and Aramaic languages and like really studying it. And there were so many things that just did not make sense with what the church was telling us. So I would get into debates with the professors at this Bible college and I got kicked out.
Okay. So you're in college, and college is supposed to be a place where you're open to question. You're supposed to use your brain, use your mind to really reach the truth. And you're
Mhm.
doing that. You're really going through languages and you're discovering things that just aren't really, it's not connecting. What were some of those things that you were starting to realize?
I don't remember what exactly it was that I was studying. I just remember knowing it was just so much bullshit. Like what they were teaching us was just bullshit and not supported by the Bible, you know. Um at least not by the what seemed to be the original intent of the Bible. People have their own translations and or interpretations of it, and I just did not find those compelling whatsoever.
Something that I feel sometimes, and you might disagree. That's okay. But sometimes I feel that there are. Oh, I almost want to say everybody, but I don't want to throw everybody under the bus. But a large number of people who have faith, a blind faith, but are not using a bit of their reasoning, a bit of understanding. Like it's easy to memorize lines, Bible verses, but not really knowing what it is that they believe. Did you feel that inside of this church or community, a lot of the people, or maybe all of them, had this way of treating faith as kind of like just memorizing, like a legalistic point of view?
Yeah, and not even just memorizing the Bible for itself. It was also memorizing the interpretations that were given by the preachers and missionaries and leaders in the church. Because you can take one Bible verse and ask five different religious leaders, and they'll have different interpretations for it. So that like blind belief and just blind acceptance was necessary for people to be kept in that, to stay in the cult.
So me, I am actually pro reading, like we're trying to read
Imagine
it
that.
and understand, you know. But you make a good point. Yes, different people and they'll have different interpretations. But despite the different interpretations, different understandings, uh, if they are trying to be Christian, they still should treat you with that Christ-like respect. But it sounds like that wasn't the case. Am I correct or am I off?
I mean, I wouldn't say it was like a lack of respect necessarily. It was just something that people just accepted. You either are saved or you're not. And if you believe what we believe, then you're saved. That was the end of it. Like there was very little discussion around why or how.
There was like no shunning, like, oh, she's not saved, or
Oh yeah, I mean people like, someone would come to the church and they would get baptized, and then, let's say they had like a rebellious teenager going out and doing things. There were definitely social repercussions. Um and people are people. I mean, I feel like some people really approach that from a loving perspective, and I definitely knew many people that I would consider good. I still know some people who are still in it that I think are good people. Um and they're not necessarily harming anyone. I mean, that too can be subjective though, because like earlier when I was talking about the, not being saved if you died suddenly and had a sinful thought, I think that can be really detrimental to children because it's a type of brainwashing. But like the parents that are doing that aren't doing it because they want their children to suffer. They think that they need to be saved and they need to go to heaven, and so for them comes from a place of love. Um,
It's a real mind fuck, isn't
yeah. Yep.
it?
Yep, for sure.
Um, okay, so a lot is happening. You've left Alaska, you're in Minnesota.
Left my
Uh,
wolf,
you left your wolf. You're also got kicked out
my
of
horse.
two schools. Um, what was going on in your mind, and how was your family taking it that you were kicked out of school?
Um, so I was just starting to I was getting exposure to more people and more belief systems and more science and facts, and I continued watching Star Trek like constantly. There was just it still is. I'm going to the Star Trek convention in Vegas this year, which is huge. It's the 60th anniversary because the original Star Trek came out in 1966. Um, and I just always had a questioning nature. And science was always really interesting to me. I I'm sure my parents were disappointed and probably sad and, you know, maybe even grieving a little bit, thinking that I wasn't going to go to heaven. Um, but they were never really overbearing, or I mean they did let me make my own decisions. Um, and then the second Bible college I ended up in was Indiana, and I stayed there. I stayed there for like 7 years or
Wow.
so. And that I was working jobs and meeting more people and learning new things and being exposed to other kinds of music and ideologies and stuff. And yeah, I didn't want to go back home because I didn't want to be back in that environment again. Not because it was terrible. It wasn't like horribly abusive. Like my parents didn't abuse me or anything like that. But I just felt like there was so much more, and I didn't want to be limited by that.
I find it fascinating that, earlier you're talking about, not everybody in there. And of course, you also, added a little asterisk of, it's very subjective, but like not everybody there is uh, toxic, let's say. There's some people who really do show like I don't know, like, would you say that you've, like, I don't know, like for me, like sometimes I feel like there's some people there in the cult that I used to be in who are so toxic, who are just like
Hmm.
so full of hate. But then there are other people who actually I felt like were genuine, even if I wasn't following all the rules, that they were just like nice people. Do you feel something like
Hmm.
that?
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think human nature is the same anywhere in any belief system. Maybe certain kinds of people are more drawn to these things because of, trauma or life experiences or whatever. Um, but at least in my experiences, the churches that I went to, I felt like most of the people were good-hearted people. I think most humans are, honestly.
Yeah, most
It's a
humans.
maybe optimistic view, but that's also just something that is part of my nature.
No, no, you make a good point. And from this point, I want to jump to the next topic, and that is relationships. Because, from the first topic, we see how the water gets a little muddy, how it's mixed, the good and the bad. And there's an ideology of love and devotion, but then this sometimes gets abused or it gets used in a toxic way. Now,
Hmm.
in relationships, it's expected to be non-toxic, it's supposed to be non-abusive, it's supposed to be loving. But even in relationships, perspectives can really get just blurry. So from going from that first, with the your relationship with church, did that relationship with church, community, cult, did it have a maybe indirect or direct, um what's the word I'm looking for, uh damn, what's the word I'm looking for?
Influence, effect.
Yes, did it have an influence on your view when it came to love and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, another kind of foundational, and this is common in a lot of Christian organizations, but you know, the woman is below the man, and the man is below God. So women are like a subcategory. and women are supposed to be submissive and defer to men. Women are not supposed to be leaders. They're not supposed to be outspoken. Uh, and I definitely internalized a lot of that. And I also, because I didn't know I was autistic until, well, it's been almost a decade now, I guess. But growing up, I didn't know I was autistic. So I always thought I was shy because I would have trouble, communicating and relating to people. But I'm actually very outgoing, like, what's the word? What's the word when you like people and you like being around people? Introvert, extrovert. There we
Extrovert.
go. I'm actually a very extroverted person. It took me a long time to like figure out how to interact with people socially. And so because I thought I was shy, I thought I was quiet. I like to read. I spent a lot of time by myself. In Alaska, there's not very many people to begin with. So I, grew up alone a lot of the time, running around in the woods with my horse and my wolf and whatever. So I thought when I started, I got into like romantic relationships, I carried that with me. And I thought that I needed to allow the man to guide me and to make decisions and choose things for me. And as it turns out, that's not true. And I was taught to defer to stronger personalities. And so, I didn't understand my own power, my own mind. Um, I didn't understand myself at all. So I just kind of fell into these relationships where people who were just more outwardly confident, I guess. Um, I kind of let them take the lead, and that went really badly a few times.
In these relationships, did you feel valued?
I mean, I thought I did because what I saw was so normalized for me that I thought it was, loving and caring, and it really wasn't. It was based on selfishness, or there's this book called The Four Agreements. Have you heard of it?
No.
I forget the author's name, but one of the it's a really good read. It's short. It's a very short. The book itself is like that big. But one of the four agreements is never take anything personally, because everything that every choice that I make, I am ultimately making for myself. And if I say something that hurts another person, it's not because of them, it's because I have some hurt within me. So when other people do things to me, it's not about me, it's about them. And that was kind of one of the big revelations that I came to later in life. Um, and one of the things, ironically, the most abusive relationship I was ever in, that man exposed me to a lot of things that ultimately ended our relationship, and that book was one of them.
And was that were these relationships, were they like based out of church, or this already outside of church?
No, so as soon as I left home, like when I went to the colleges, I started working and meeting other people. I was already out of it mentally and emotionally. I was done, just kind of looking for a way out, I guess.
But,
And
but
I think I became atheist while I was in Bible college, actually.
okay. Um, so while you were out, but you received a lot of this conditioning, saying, like you mentioned earlier, like that diagram where it's, God, then husband, and then the wife is like seen as like
Hmm.
a subhuman.
Hmm.
Um, Even though you're mentally out, do some of these like ideologies, like, do they stay with you?
I don't. I mean, maybe. I think I've done a lot of internal work, particularly after the last relationship. I really started examining my beliefs and where they came from, and I think I've worked through a lot of them. I'm sure there are still subconscious things that I'm, not fully aware of or haven't worked through yet, but I think I feel like most of them have been expunged. I hope.
Okay. Well, you said something that's very important, and that is you've worked through them. A lot of people fear that if they ask questions or if they work through maybe their traumas or their questions, that they're going to be condemned, or they're going to lose love in life. Um, did you ever have questions like this? Did you ever have fears that you're going to lose everything?
Um, Honestly, not really. In addition to just being alone so much when I was a child and being autistic and being an Aquarius, if you buy into that, like I'm a very independent person. I'm totally happy by myself a lot of the time. So I wasn't, and I was just used to not having a lot of friends because, again, like learning to socially interact with people was difficult for a long time. So it wasn't something that I was too worried about, honestly.
Okay, well, how
I
about
feel lucky that way.
and how about when it came to leaving relationships? Because you were mentioning earlier that some of these relationships were sadly, unfortunately, toxic.
Hmm.
And a lot of people can be blaming themselves. Oh, it's my fault that this relationship didn't last, or something in their mind. But what helped you to grow and to continue working, as you said you've worked?
Support systems. I mean, I have two children. My first daughter, when um, she was born in Indiana. Her father was an alcoholic. And while my parents were there visiting, we had just been out of the hospital, I think, like 5 or 6 days, 5 days, 6 days, because we left when she was 6 days old. He punched a hole in the wall next to my face and told my dad I was lucky it wasn't my face. And they were like, "We're getting you out of here." And you know, I'm gonna get emotional. I know there are so many women in situations like that that don't have support systems that they can fall back on, and that's why they stay because they don't have a choice. Or I mean, or the choice is homelessness, or losing their kids, the kids getting sent to foster care or whatever. And so a lot of women stay in relationships because they don't have support. Um, and I wish we had more resources and more funding available for those resources than we do here. It's upsetting sometimes. And I myself even I want to be more involved in things, in supporting people, not just women. I mean, anyone can be in an abusive relationship. I say women a lot because it's my experience and I know my experience. Um, but I do want to find ways to be more involved and part of a supportive, caring community. So that's a goal.
So you mentioned community, you mentioned the work that you've had to put to overcome some of the challenges that you've had in your life, but you've also mentioned Star Trek. Can you tell us about that?
Um, so like I said, I watched it when I was young. It was one of the only things I was allowed to watch. And the philosophies in Star Trek are they're very egalitarian, is that the right word? It's this concept that everyone is equal. No one's better than anyone else just because someone might have a higher IQ, which is also bullshit, but whatever. Or maybe they're better at fixing vehicles, or maybe they're better at talking to people, or whatever it is. um, Inherently everybody has value. Even disabled people have value. Whether or not they can contribute to the economy does not determine if they're valuable. And um, there's also this thing in Star Trek where they in the future, because it's I want to say it's like 2200 something. I don't remember exactly, but there's no money on Earth. There's no they've basically done away with currency. Um, so no one has to fight over resources because everyone has access to the same resources. Um, and they're in this constant pursuit of knowledge, going to other planets and other systems to meet aliens and to learn different things about different cultures. And in doing so, we learn things about ourselves. Um, so in my last relationship, there was a new Star Trek show that had come out called Discovery, and there's this one alien in it. His name is Saru. Actually, this is Saru, and I have pictures with the actor. Oh, I haven't put him in a frame yet. So I've met him. So this is Doug Jones. He plays Saru in Star Trek Discovery. He's a like a creature character actor. So he was the Silver Surfer. He was he's been in a bunch of things. Like you rarely see him in something with his actual face. His actual face. He's usually in like, some crazy prosthetic makeup and stuff. So anyway, this character, this species, they're called Kelpians, and they live on a planet where they are prey, and the other species on the planet are predators. And it's just they just accept it as that's the way it is, and that's the way it will always be. Saru decides to escape the planet, so he goes to the Federation. He becomes a Starfleet officer, and there's this one episode. I just watched it like 3 days ago because I'm rewatching it again for the third time. There's this one episode where a piece of his body falls off, and he goes through this transformation that he didn't know was possible. His species believed that that transformation was actually the end of life, that they would die when that happened. So he thought he was going to die. He didn't die, and then he says what is it? He says something about how I don't feel fear anymore. And, that's something that their species lived with. It was part of their culture. Everything was based around fear and survival and being this prey species. And he said, I don't feel fear anymore, and I have my own power. And that's when I knew that I didn't need to feel fear anymore. And that I had my own power too. Yeah. Every single time I've talked about this 100 times, and every single time makes me cry. Because it was such a, like, I remember that moment in my head so clearly, and I'll never forget it. So as soon as I had that realization that I don't need to live in fear and I have my own power, I started making a plan to get out. And luckily, the person I was with, I was really worried about how that was going to go because our relationship had turned into a coerced master-slave arrangement where I was the slave and he was the master. There was physical abuse, there was torture, there was age regression, there was gaslighting and brainwashing, and he used my background against me because he knew, and he was a really smart person too. He just knew how to, influence people. So I feel lucky, honestly, that he just let go and didn't really try to hold on much. So we got divorced, and then I met my husband, who I'm with now, and I've been so incredibly happy, so much happier in my life. And my husband now, he knows all this. We actually had met before I got divorced. We started writing music together, and we were friends for a while, before it kind of developed into something else. But he's never tried to control me or make me something else and make me into a different person. He's always been very supportive of me finding my own power and finding my own voice and being myself, and that's so incredibly valuable. And yeah, so Saru saved my life.
You met the actor, correct?
Yep.
Did you tell him this?
Yep. I've been to 5 or 6 Star Trek conventions now. There's one that happens in Chicago that I go to, and the one in Vegas I haven't gone to every year because it's expensive, very
Mhm.
expensive. But I am going this year. I'm really excited. It's the 60th anniversary. It's just it's a big deal. So yeah, so I every time every chance I get, I say hi to him. I pay pay to stand in line, and he gives great hugs. Um, and we even chat a little bit now and then on social media. Like if I see something, I'll send him a little message, and he'll respond. He's really nice person. He's such a nice person. So anyway, the Star Trek saved my life, and I was when that happened, when that episode came out, I was at the point of being. I don't want to like. There were times that I felt suicidal. I never took it to the level where I never made a plan to end my life, but I thought about it. And if I didn't have children, maybe I would have thought about it more. But I couldn't leave them. But I was miserable. I was so unhappy, and yeah, Star Trek saved my life.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you, Doug Jones. Thank you, Gene Roddenberry.
It's amazing for me, as a podcaster. I don't bash anyone's religion, anyone's ideology. I try my best to understand. Sometimes I don't, but I still try my best. And something that I find just so fascinating. I don't know if that's the best word, but just
That's what Spock would say.
fascinating.
He is fascinating. That's like his catchphrase.
Something I find fascinating is the power of thought or ideas, or maybe you can say concepts, because earlier, like with the church concepts, you have those who are, it's black or white, it's this or that, it's heaven or straight to hell, and then you have others who are still just loving and just living life happy. I don't know, happy go lucky maybe, but also that's because you see the power of how one believes. And here with the concept of do not fear, of the Star Trek. I almost said Star Wars.
No. Banned.
But we see how powerful these thoughts, even though communicated just through film, can really change a person's life and save a person's life. But your journey doesn't end there. It goes on to, and you've already touched on it, making music. Can you share with us what is that journey all about for you when it comes to making music?
Because of the church, uh, well, not just because of the church, also because of my mom, actually. I was very involved in music from a very young age. I started playing piano, I was like 6 or something. I sang in choirs, I was in musicals, all that stuff. So music was just kind of a part of my life, always has been. And I had been in some bands, like in my 20s and 30s, but I never did a solo project. And then when I met my husband, we started kind of talking about music and writing things together. And um, he gave me some resources for how to just create music by myself. So I started producing electronic music, and then I came up with this concept for the character Häxa, which is my stage persona. That's the artist, I guess. Um, and I just kind of took it and ran with it, and it's been very cathartic. There's a few songs that I've written that are hard to perform, um, because I have to not think, I have to not feel, because I'll get overcome with emotion. Like I have a song that's about panic attacks. Um, and I have a song about a witch who's killed for being a lesbian who gives herself an abortion. I've had 2 abortions. 2, yes. Um, and sometimes when I'm practicing those songs, I have to like really try to focus on the music, not the thoughts or the feelings, because it can be overwhelming. And music is just I it's hard to describe. I don't think I could live in a world without music. I would have to find a way to create it myself. um and I know that there are people who have had similar experiences like mine with Star Trek, that where a song saved their life or helped them through a hard time. And I hope that my music will be that for someone. That it can be a positive, encouraging thing that helps them with some difficulty. I mean, I don't think that's ultimately why I do it. I think the reason I do it is just because music is just, it's in my blood. My mom's a musician. Her dad was a musician. He sang at the Grand Ole Opry. It's just something I was born with, I think. But it's more than that too. Music has a way of bringing out emotions and creating thoughts and stories and different ways, different perspectives, different ways of looking at things. Music is amazing.
And how was it for you performing in front of people for the first time?
uh as a solo artist, that was difficult because, I mean, being in a musical or being in a choir or even, piano recitals, you don't have to sing necessarily. So I was very used to performing from a young age, but performing by myself was difficult. It was
Or or
challenging.
or how was it performing your own music?
Yeah. I do remember the first few times that I did that. I kind of blacked out, and I don't even remember them now, to be honest. Like I just
Like you fainted? You blacked out?
No, no,
Like,
no. Like I mean, as that I don't remember it.
oh, okay. I
Like I
thought
just
like
kind of went on autopilot, and afterwards I was like, oh wow, I just performed a show and I don't really remember much of it.
okay. I thought like you went up there on stage, you got the
Oh
mic,
God, no.
and then you woke up and they were like, "Wake up, wake up." But yeah, it sounds like you've really experienced. I don't know, like you've really done a lot of the work, and not only with Star Trek, but also your music, your lyrics. What's next?
Well, I'm working on an album right now. I would love to do a music video at some point soon. It's a little difficult because those things take money, and I don't have very much of that. Um, but I mean, there's also, there's communities. I have friends. You can do a lot by yourself with a phone, like
Yeah.
a decent camera. Um, and I've started touring a little bit, so I've got a bunch of shows out of state this year, which I haven't done before. So I've got like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. We just played Louisville a couple weeks ago. Do I have one in Wisconsin? Not Wisconsin yet. So mostly just Midwest.
Okay.
Because also touring is something that takes money. So hopefully I can. What I really want to do is I need to make more merch. Like I have some t-shirts, and I have like a book that I wrote. It's not a book. It's a more like a journal kind of thing. Um, but I also want to branch into providing different kinds of value, especially for people who are, either in an abusive relationship or are recovering for one. I feel like I have some unique perspectives to offer, and I'm right now in this exploration of the intersection between science and spirituality, which is really, really, really interesting. Like how powerful the human mind is, what we can do with just our mind is incredible. Um, so I'm learning about that, and I also want to be able to help other people, because that's one of the places where you can really start to find your own power too. Is once you do truly see what you're capable of.
So it sounds like you're very busy. You have a lot of things going on, which is good. So best of luck for your music journey and also for, uh, I guess, your self-education because it sounds like you're really out there trying to seek, uh, I don't know, knowledge, information, truth, but you're seeking, and I admire that.
Ultimately, like my ultimate goal is to have land somewhere and horses where people can come and do like, like a weekend retreat or something, and use that to fund abuse recovery resources. So if I had the money to do it, I would have like houses for people to live in. You can get their, I forget what they're called, modular homes. I don't think that's the right word, but you can get like a small, it's like a trailer almost for really, really cheap. And a lot of times there are people who just don't have anywhere to go, so they stay in an abusive situation or they end up homeless. Um, Most of the, well, I don't want to say most. I know that a large percentage of homeless people are foster kids that aged out of the system and don't have family to fall back on. Um, it's just there's so many people who need resources that just aren't available here anyway in the US. So ultimately I would love to just have more to give to help other people through, situations, because I was lucky that I had family and I had friends and I had communities that I could turn to. Not everybody has that.
Quick question. Is are your parents, are they still church people?
Hmm. Yep, they are.
It's kind of refreshing. I mean, because I hear a lot of unfortunate stories of, with cults and families, and then parents disowning the child and
Mm.
being totally, like no contact, never want to see you again. But it's refreshing hearing that even though they still do have a religious faith, that they
Hmm.
they still talk to you.
Well, what's really interesting is, so my mom and I, she had an accident recently. So my sister and I have been going up to visit her because she's struggling with some things health wise. But her and I have had some really good conversations. And I used to have a lot more animosity towards Christianity and religion in general. I still don't particularly like religion. Um, but my mom is actually very open minded. And so there's this one author called Joe Dispenza, and he's written a couple books. One's called Becoming Supernatural. Another one is You Are the Placebo. And they're literally about the power of the mind. And so my mom and I have been having these conversations about, how we connect with spirituality. And it turns out that we believe a lot of the same things, which was kind of shocking to me because, and even the last time we were there, we were having a conversation and she said, I'm so glad that I could talk to you about this now because I can't talk to the other church people about it. Because, it's too far out there for them, and science and religion don't mix. So yeah, it's been an interesting progression. Our relationship has improved dramatically.
Well, thanks so much for sharing all that you've shared with us today, and also about your love for Star Trek, your love for music. For those in the audience who are interested in hearing your music, where can they go?
Well, because the word hexa is ubiquitous and it would be very hard to find me. Like if you were just to search HAXA, you find so much stuff. But if you go to heatherhexa.com, so Heather HAXA.com, there's some links there. Or I don't know if you link like any social profiles when the
Yeah.
episode comes out, but I usually have a link in all of those too. So
Okay.
I'll try to make it not too hard to find me.
Okay. You're also available like on Instagram, YouTube.
Yep. Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
So thanks so much for sharing all that you've shared with us
Thank
today.
you.
Uh, we have one more question. It's a question that I ask all of my guests, and that is, Heather, what is your truth that heals?
I've been thinking about this since you first mentioned it at the beginning. I think it would be that nothing is hopeless. Um, there are a lot of times where it might feel like it's there's nothing to live for or nothing to believe in. But I think when we can learn to open our heart and open our mind to other possibilities, good things can happen. And it's going to sound really cheesy, but learning to love yourself is so important because that changes everything. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being an amazing guest on the podcast. It's been
Thank
great
you so
having
much for
you
having
on.
me.
And yes, it's been a pleasure. And to the audience, don't forget to subscribe. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button if you're watching this over on YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment as well. And if you're watching this or listening to this over on Spotify or on a different podcast platform, go ahead and leave a review, some stars. That always helps. And if you want to help me out a little bit more, yes, me, Ryan Anthony, you can do so by contributing to my little coffee fund. And you can help me you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/truth7. All of your contributions help me to keep the podcast going and helps me to buy more coffee to stay caffeinated, awake, and alert for each podcast.
Coffee is life.
Coffee is life. So again, Heather, thank you so much for being a great guest on the podcast.
Thank you.